We got April's first slate of Xbox Game Pass games, and the Coalition shows off just how amazing the graphics are going to be in their next game. So we got April's first Xbox Game Pass announcement, and it's coming with a bunch of games. One big game that we knew was already coming, which was MLB The Show 22, plus some other ones that I'm sure will catch the interest of people out there. So let's go through them. So the first game here is Cricket 22, which is going to be available on cloud and console. So if you're a Cricket fan, you're going to be able to play the latest version through Xbox Game Pass. MLB The Show 22, that is out today, day one on Xbox Game Pass. As we know, this is a first-party PlayStation game making its way onto the Xbox Game Pass service. A really incredible baseball game. If you like baseball, you've never played it before, definitely recommend checking it out. I really had a good time with MLB The Show 21, so I will be jumping into this as soon as I can. Chinatown Detective Agency. Now, this was a game shown off here at the ID at Xbox event the other month, and it's just a point-and-click adventure-style game where you're going through and you're playing here as this character. And the character's name is Amira Dharma, who is an ex-cop who has just opened her own detective agency, and you're going through solving dangerous cases using real-world research. Like I said, a point-and-click adventure, very highly narrative-driven, is also a day one game with Xbox Game Pass and will be available on cloud, console, and PC. After that, you have the classic game Dragon Age 2, pretty awesome RPG from EA, and it's coming through EA Play onto the service on April 7th on the cloud. I believe it's already available right now and everything else, but you're actually going to be able to play this game through the cloud. Same thing here with another EA Play game, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, on the cloud on April 7th. And again, the third one here, Star Wars Squadrons, on the cloud as well on April 7th. And these games are all available right now, I believe, through EA Play if you want to download them and play them, but they're just getting that cloud release. Next up, we have a very popular game that also just got great reception and great reviews, and that is Life is Strange True Colors, coming April 12th on cloud, console, and PC. As it says here, it is the award-winning entry into the acclaimed Life is Strange series. Alex Chen hides her curse, the psychic power of empathy, the ability to absorb the strong emotions of others. When her brother dies in a so-called accident, Alex must embrace her power to find the truth. And this is kind of like a game where you go through, it's really narrative-based, you just make different decisions, and then it affects the outcome of the game and of the story. Then we got here Panzer Corps 2 coming to PC. It's an ID at Xbox game, and it will be available on April 12th. And this one here is a World War II strategy game. So if you're into that type of stuff, you may want to check this one out on PC. Up next, we have the Dungeon of Nahulbeck coming to PC as well on April 12th. And this is one we saw in March's Xbox Game Pass release, but I believe that was on console, but they're bringing this now over to PC Game Pass, and it is a dungeon crawling tactical RPG where you're playing in just kind of like this fantastical world. And they say here, you're a team of unlikely and clumsy heroes in an epic and challenging tactical RPG. Live an adventure filled with humor, surprises, and silly encounters. And then finally on April 14th, there's going to be Lost in Random from EA Play, coming to cloud, console, and PC. And this is like an action game where you roll dice and you use cards in order to determine the outcome of your battles and of your fights. I was taking a look at this game. It's definitely a unique game, something that I haven't really seen before. Has a bunch of elements mixed together that you probably think wouldn't be mixed together. So it could be something interesting to check out if you're looking for something new and different to play, like action adventure games. And then it has these elements here with the cards, which will be interesting to see how it plays out in battle when actually playing the game. So not a huge month, I would say, in the grand scheme of all the games, but I would say because MLB The Show 22 is there, it makes this month actually decently good, especially for somebody like myself or anybody out there who is interested in baseball, who's interested in playing the show, and just the entire thing around the show, with it coming out on multiple platforms now, even being released on the Switch, being a first-party PlayStation game, and coming onto Game Pass on day one. I think it's just a great thing and a big thing for the entire industry. All right, moving over here to an amazing demo that we got today from the Coalition, and them showing off using Unreal Engine 5 and just some of the things they are going to be able to do with this engine, with this visual tech test compilation, giving us a look at the open world and the reflections and the lighting, the facial renders and animations. You can see here just how absolutely stunning and amazing this looks gets you very excited for what is going to be coming next from the Coalition, specifically Gears 6. This part here, the cinematic visual tech test, I think is probably one of the best things I've ever seen in terms of graphics in a video game setting. When the smoke comes up here, it's just absolutely amazing. And it gives you a lot of hope for, like I said, the future of the Coalition and the games that they are going to be working on and making, and how crazy these games are going to look. So if you want to check out the video, this link will be in the description below. But let's go through some of the stuff that they talked about within this Xbox Wire post. So this was all done at the State of Unreal event that went down today, and they show the Cavern Cinematic Tech Test, which shows movie quality assets featuring tens of millions of polygons, which can be rendered in real time, a massive 100 times leap forward in detail. Now, as you remember earlier, we saw the first tech test, and then we also saw the Matrix demo that Epic Games actually worked on with the Coalition to create the Matrix preview. That was just crazy. If you jumped into that demo, you're pretty much blown away at what you were seeing. And in this interview below, they spoke with Kate Rayner, who is the studio technical director at the Coalition, and they talked about the collaboration with Epic Games. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. So firstly, they ask about the State of Unreal presentation. What can they tell us about what we just saw? And she says here, first off, I have to give credit to the whole team, as this was truly a studio-wide effort to create our first ever cinematic in Unreal Engine 5, as well as our first time using Sequencer. Talks about how they're very proud of the facial animations, just the overall quality of the character models, and how they were able to utilize, for the first time, the preliminary version of our next-gen face rig and hire an actor wearing a head cam to capture performance and partner with Cubic Motion to bring it all to life. So all that is just, I guess, jargon for the developers who are doing these things. What you need to know is what the technology that they're using is giving us these amazing videos and examples that we're seeing, and it'll be crazy to see how this all transfers over into an actual game itself. They also go on here to say that, coupled with the control rig, to help us create someone who looks and moves in the most realistic ways we've ever done, and it's incredibly exciting to think where we can go next. They also utilized chaos cloth physics to get a really high level of visual fidelity, which I'm guessing that's just kind of how everything is moving on the character when they're walking through. I find that clothing, equipment, all that type of stuff in video games has always been something that a lot of developers haven't been able to do that great to make it look very realistic. And once they get to a point where it just looks super realistic, it will just add so much to the actual immersion of these games. I mean, that's a big thing. Some games do it well, some not so well. What else is very cool is all of these visual animations are all running on an Xbox Series X, giving us just the idea of what we can expect to see, which further pushes home that point that we really haven't seen everything out of the Series X yet. There is a lot to be improved upon, a lot of growth that is still to come. We're very early on in this generation, and I know people expect these consoles to be utilized to their full potential within the first year, the first, second year. But if you look throughout the history of consoles, you really don't start to see what they can truly do until we get closer to the end. And I think we will start to really see that when the Coalition releases their next game, assuming Gears 6 or whatever else they are working on. They were even specifically asked about the future of the Gears franchise in both the immediate and long term, and how Unreal Engine 5 is going to impact it. And she says here that it will enable them to have higher quality visuals, larger and more interactive environments, and a host of other aspects, which they are excited for within UA 5, which makes you start to think. In Gears 5, there was a semi-open world sections of that game, and then there were the more linear sections. So maybe they are thinking along the lines with the next Gears, they're probably going to make something more open in general compared to what we've seen. And having the amazing graphics of Gears 5, like Gears 5 was one of the best looking games, even on these next gen consoles. As an Xbox One game that was updated for the Series X, it was one of the best looking games we've seen so far. They're going to be able to take those graphics, improve upon them, and then give us a more open world, I think, for Gears 6. Now, it continues on here, going on to talk about how the Coalition has actually contributed to Unreal Engine. And they say they've been working with Unreal Engine, with Epic, all the way back in 2010. They have been doing stuff to ensure that the Xbox platform is supported and as optimal as possible. Some of the toolkit stuff that is available that are going to be able to use on their upcoming games are things we've heard about before, like Lumen and Nanite. Nanite is what we've seen in some of these tests already, which enable the full quality movie assets to be rendered in real time, meaning that artists can create assets with tens of millions of polygons, scalable to scenes with billions and billions, which, I mean, from a layman sitting here not really fully understanding what that means, it does sound very promising for these type of stuff we're going to be able to see going forward. They also say here that the details are just incredible, more than 100 times what was possible before. Just looking at the eyeball detail, the number of vertices and polygons are the equivalent of what an entire character would have been in the previous generation of games. So very cool. They also talk about the full dynamic real-time global illumination lighting. That has been a long sought after feature, and they say that Lumen, the feature itself in Unreal, is a total game changer. Now, what else is interesting about all of this is that the knowledge that the Coalition is gaining, they're going to be able to pass this on across all of Xbox Game Studios. Something that comes with acquiring more studios is when you acquire these studios, when you build more studios internally, you're not only getting their IPs, you're getting all of their knowledge. And the Coalition, not being a studio they acquired, a studio that they created, they're going to be able to pass on that knowledge to everybody else. So studios like Bethesda, all the Activision Blizzard studios, plus all the other Xbox game studios. And they are working closely here, they say, with the Xbox ATG, which is the Advanced Technology Group. One of the things that I think is most fascinating with the Matrix Awakens demo, they touch on here, and it is the fact that they were able to put the features that were on the Xbox Series X onto the Xbox Series S. And she was asked, would you describe the Matrix Awakens as a success, and what are you most proud of? Touches on here saying the fact that we shipped this next gen experience on Xbox Series S with all the same features, including ray tracing, that we have in Xbox Series X at such an incredible level of quality is really amazing. And I think the biggest thing about that is once they're able to utilize these features, if they're able to actually put all of this into a game, and you're going to be able to get ray tracing, all of the Unreal Engine 5 features on the Xbox Series S, you're going to be getting some of the best next-gen experiences for a console that's $299. It's literally an unbeatable thing. It really shows the Xbox Series S what is capable of if you have developers that know how to utilize all the features that will be available to them in these different engines and within the development kit for Xbox. And adding to that, all of this stuff is going to take away some of the compromises that we're seeing today with the games that are coming out. UE5 is going to be able to remove friction points in the workflow and things like we talked about earlier, Nanite. They will no longer have to manually create low polygon versions of models, and the Lumen not having to see the lighting needs to be rebuilt and waiting for offline static lighting to be rebaked greatly speeds up the development process. And finally, they end off this interview with a couple of questions talking about their experience transitioning from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. And she says here that it's been very smooth just because of how much easier Unreal Engine 5 is to use. Talking about how the architecture of the engine is modular and they've embraced plugins. And they say here, when we worked with UE4, we would make a lot of changes to the engine over time. And so those integration costs would get higher. Now the integrations are much smoother. The engine is a lot more modular and allows us to give more flexibility to the devs. On top of that, she says here that there's a certain feature that people should be paying attention to, and that is the temporal super resolution, which is the ability to render 4K for the cost of rendering at 1080p. I mean, that is a great feature. That's something that's going to make it easier for these consoles to output higher resolution pictures for us to see when we're playing the games, and that their iteration time has increased because they say working with this engine is a what you see is what you get experience. So lots of good stuff here. Very interesting from the standpoint of the future of the games we are going to be seeing, and we're going to be getting the Coalition having their hands on with Unreal Engine 5, utilizing it, being able to share their knowledge with other developers, I think is a huge thing. We already know they do amazing work when you look at Gears 5 and just how amazing that game looked. Being able to transfer all of this over to Gears 6, I think, is going to be something that we're all going to be in awe when that game finally comes out. And these examples that they're showing us is just the beginning, and I can't wait to see them utilizing this further. In fact, they aren't the only studio that's actually utilizing UE5. They put out a picture of all the different studios out there, and you can see here all the studios that are using Unreal Engine 5. There's a massive list. Jeff Keighley put out this tweet saying here are the studios currently working on Unreal Engine 5 games, but specifically here are the Xbox studios: inXile, Rare, Undead Labs, The Initiative, Double Fine, Ninja Theory, The Coalition, and Obsidian Entertainment. So lots to look forward to across the multiple Xbox game studios, teams, as well as across just the gaming industry in general, with what we're going to see in terms of the graphics, the gameplay, just what Unreal Engine 5 is going to be able to do to games going forward. That's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the first batch of Game Pass games for April. What do you think about Unreal Engine 5, and what do you expect is going to come out of Xbox Game Studios with using this system? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, you enjoyed what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video. We'll be right back.